Got some honey mead that I made homemade. Some of the vegans might not like that. But anyways, today we're going to talk about a quote that says, just leave if you don't like it here. Now, besides from this being perhaps an insult to some degree, not that everybody necessarily means it as such, it can be insulting to the person receiving it, because guess what? I've heard that many times. And that's perhaps because I've come off as extreme to them, so they feel like maybe they have to be extreme back. I don't know what it is, but in particular, it seems like it's just a scapegoat for them to say, well, if you don't like it, you can just leave. Okay, can I? Could you please help me with that? I'd love to know. Please, share with me. I'd love to know. Okay? And tell me why that's a good idea in reality. Okay, because in reality, there is no government except nature. That's it. And I live my life. I'm born out of the womb, and somehow I'm under some sort of contract I didn't sign or didn't consent to. Interesting. I'm under some system I never heard of that naturally would have never came to me in nature. Okay, interesting. But I have no choice but to obey because I live on some piece of land that some person claimed for themselves, even though it's nature's. Okay, interesting. So far we have a lot of logical inconsistencies. But on top of that, there's even more inconsistencies just in the individual who says this phrase without even thinking for themselves. Okay, I'm born somewhere. Does that mean, how does that legitimize the fact that I should leave if I don't want to be here? What makes it so that in the world I can't be born somewhere and like where I am based on what I manifest for myself? Why is it that I have to be under the duress of another individual claiming what I should do with my own life? At all. It doesn't matter where they do it. And if I am to move, where am I supposed to go in this world where there isn't an established government of people imposing their will on others? Why don't we change that instead of try to run away? It's like trying to leave Earth to go to Mars because we think it's a better idea to help humanity. Well, okay, it's more of a defeatism, escapism mindset, which I don't want to be in. I want to say, let's change things. If things are wrong, fix it. But if you're going to say, well, you're not going to ever like the system that we're under, so you might as well either create your own or leave. Okay, create my own. How do I do that if I'm going to be punished if I disobey? Number one. Number two, how do I leave if they make it super difficult to? And if I don't want to leave because I see this as nature, I see this as home. I see everywhere as home because I was born here. That makes sense. Moreover, than somebody saying, well, this is my property because I say so, and that includes you and all your property, so you have no choice but to follow me, and everybody else agrees, so you kind of have to do it. Does that make more sense than me saying, well, I was born here, and I put my labor, I put my work into this, and this is what I own, so, this is, I love America, but I don't love my government. I love the land, but I don't want to pledge allegiance to anything that I didn't personally consent to. Does that not make any sense to you? See, this is interesting, because I went over two other quotes earlier through my videos, you can check, where people come up with such stupid things to say without even thinking about it. And people will agree. They'll be like, yeah, if you don't like it here, then why don't you just leave? Like, what do you want me to say to you? Do you want me to say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna pack my bags and leave next week. I'm gonna leave next month. Okay, I'm gonna try my best to get out of the country. Like, no, I realize that America is one of the freest places, but that goes back to my other video where I go over, well, you're lucky to live in America. It doesn't make any sense. Look at that video in case you want to. Because, let me tell you, I live not in America, I live on a land called America, and I live my own life, just as I would hope you would. Why should you infringe upon my life? Why should anybody infringe upon another person's life? And if you agree with that, but then you have some disagreements when it comes to other infringements, what makes you the one to decide what should be done with everybody else's property? Do you want to be the slave master? Do you want to legitimize certain people being the plantation owners and saying that, well, if you don't like the plantation, you can leave? How do I leave a plantation that is being washed all the time? Our identity's stolen, and your whole life is built here, your family, everything, and you want to just say leave? This doesn't make much sense. But this is what people will do. They'll say things like this without even thinking about what they're actually saying. Because they're not in reality. They're in a reality that they were propagandized into thinking that, well, this is the system that we're under, so you either have to go with it, and if you don't like it, well, you have to vote, you have to change it, but that's the only thing you can do, and there's no alternative like abolishing the government, even though it says it in the Declaration of Independence. There's no alternative such as creating a revolution, even though the Founding Fathers literally did that, and there's been billions of governments on top of other governments because they all don't work and always fail. But no, we should stay within the system that we're in, continue to suffer, allow the tyranny to grow, because we just keep doing the same things over and over again, thinking that we're changing it, thinking that we're voting people into office who are doing good. Well, that's the very problem that got us to where we are. But no, we don't realize any of those things, so we're going to blame it on you, the crazy, out of this world thinking person who just wants to live their life and have no violence whatsoever and involuntary interaction. My gosh, you're so crazy and insane. Wow, you own yourself, you recognize it, and you don't want anyone else to own over you. Wow. You don't want enforcers of a certain type to be legitimized in their use of violence. Wow, you don't want a monopoly on violence. I mean, this is the mindset of people because they don't understand statism, and they don't want to admit to that. They want to think they already figured it out. They want to think that they already know what anarchy is, what it entails, what people within such a mindset have, and think that, well, it's okay, you can have no rules and you can... No, I'm not saying that there are no rules. I'm saying there are rules. Don't twist my words. I'm saying that there's still going to be people who are leaders, but they're not rulers. And I go over all these ideas, but do they look at any single one of them? Do they come to me with any criticism? Do they write out anything for me in a response, a formal fashion, perhaps a video, a documentary, anything, any documentation to support their arguments? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So how do you expect to convince me that when you just say, just leave if you don't like it? Okay, if you don't like this video, you can leave. Wow, that's pretty easy. All it takes is one click. But me leaving my living place, my family, my place where I've always done things, that's not an easy thing. You try moving yourself, even just across, the state, your own state in your own country. Just try moving. See how difficult, how long it takes you to do that, right? And see how many barriers you have to go through just to get there, right? You're never free in this world. That's the reality. And you need to accept the fact that you are a slave in this system so long as you are in a system. And there's systems everywhere on Earth because this is what they do. And they conquer people with war. That is what creates slavery. Check out my video on that if you're interested. But that is what I ultimately am talking about here, is freeing ourselves from those corrupting influences, from those influences that says, no, you don't have the freedom to travel. Like a slave who has to stay in the plantation all day. You have to stay on that plantation. So don't tell me that, you're free to go wherever you want. You aren't. If I want to drive, I have to get permission from a government in order to drive. Right? I have to get permission to do simple things. Okay? And those things are backed by violence. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so problematic. Right? They wouldn't be immoral actions. If I want to go into an establishment such as, a hotel, and they have certain rules for their own establishment, so be it. I can just leave the establishment if I don't like it. But I'm in a system that proclaims ownership over an entire piece of land, including all the businesses and all the people and everything within it. That is not a business. That's a government. That's not ordinary ownership. That is slavery. Because they don't own any of that. Do they own you? No. So if you realize that you're free, then how are you showing your freedom? You have to show your freedom by your defiance. Not your, well, if you don't like it, you can do this, or let's excuse every possibility so they can exist. Don't let tyranny exist at all. Tyranny has no place in the world at all. No immorality has any place in the world. It's not a necessary evil. Okay? Freedom in nature is necessary. Government and such is not. Why? I don't know. Maybe because one's evil and one is not. When you understand it, when you put it into practice and say, well, this helps free me. It's either you go toward freedom or you go toward slavery. And I'm sorry, but freedom is on the side of anarchy and government is on the side of slavery. It's a two-way street. And until you can disprove that, okay, and not by using some magical means of terms that you want to use, some political BS, give me this pure, straight-out reasoning, then maybe I'll consider what you're actually saying, just leaving. But you can't just tell someone to just buy a house, just get a car, just go to college, just do anything. Because it requires work. Okay? It all requires work. Just like the work that you probably don't want to do just looking into my videos, otherwise you wouldn't have made such a statement as such. But that's the truth of the matter. Is you can't just run away from the problems. You have to face the problems head on and get rid of the problems, not change the problem into a new one. Because if you're changing a problem but it's still a problem, it's a problem. Thank you very much for watching. This is Corey at Ninjalot. Nature is the answer.